politics is just something you like from being a kid, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's been in my blood. My very first political memory is a bunch of supporters of the first Bush way back in the early 90s, and I've been hooked ever since. So
yeah,
it's just kind of got in me.
You know, and I've told you before, like I've always been super turned off by politics, you know, and I've always felt as a single citizen that it was just, you know, something that nobody had a say in, that basically you voted, you know, people voted, but you know, that was weird. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, these people became representatives. And then after that, the average citizen was just completely disconnected from it.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of turned off in the beginning. You know, and I'm still not a super political person. We'll leave it at that. But now that I'm a cannabis business owner,
mm-hmm.
man, a lot of stuff, you know, specifically regulation goes through a political level.
Yep.
And we now have people, you know, in my opinion, most of which that know nothing about this community or you know, nothing about cannabis, nothing about being a cannabis business owner,
mm-hmm.
now making choices on our behalf.
Yeah.
You know, because we voted them in because, I don't know.
They were the one
for
that
whatever
ran,
reason people vote, they're against abortion or, you know, their opponent had a DWI or whoever the fuck, whatever. You know what I mean? But now these people are making decisions on stuff that, I mean, you know.
Yep.
And I hate to, you know, compare it to like abortion or something, but it's a similar concept to where people are making decisions on something.
Yeah, they don't know anything about.
They don't know nothing about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We've all got our issues too, and we are in the cannabis industry. So we should be concerned and paying attention to what's happening around us, especially with legislation. You know, for example, there's a $17 an hour minimum wage bill working its way through the legislative process right now. For a lot of business owners, that could be very unaffordable and have a huge impact on their businesses. One of the great things about New Mexico, I've worked on either political campaigns or in legislatures in probably 48 states now.
Oh, wow.
And New Mexico has, I think, some of the most accessible politicians. It's one of our great traditions here. Like, if you need to talk to your state rep, you can just walk into the state capitol and say, where's the office? And just go sit down in their office. So we have very
it's like a rural city hall. You know,
it really is.
If you're in a rural area, you know, specifically like, you know, Socorro per se, you walk in and you find the mayor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You could find the whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you can usually get shit done, which is really cool if you are trying to get shit done in a rural area. So you're saying New Mexico as a whole has completely accessible politicians.
Very much so. Very much so.
Or more accessible than most.
More than most. Yeah. And I came up politically in the era of people like Pete Domenici, where, you know, everybody here loved Pete. He was like our godfather here, and he was just a very accessible person. You know, it's part of our tradition and history.
Well, politicians should be accessible.
Absolutely, 100%.
Because the whole point, representative, means they're representing a group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Those people being me, you, and Joe Schmo.
Yeah, exactly.
And so if me, you, or Joe Schmo has something to fucking ask or say or a gripe about something, we should be able to, you know, get the gripe to them at minimum.
Yeah.
So for the cannabis industry, this is a unique time because we are currently halfway through the state legislative session.
Yep. That's right.
And for those that don't know, why don't you explain what that means? What is the state legislative session?
So the legislature consists of our elected state representatives and state senators. And every year at the beginning of the year, in odd years, they're in what they call session for 60 days. And on the odd years, they're in session, or even years, they're in session for 30 days and deal mainly with budget issues. But what they're doing is sitting down and discussing all of the issues that may have come up during the year, all the way from the state budget, which funds all of things like education, our roads, which is a little bit of a separate process, prisons, Medicaid, all of those things that, you know, makes New Mexico run. And this year they're discussing quite a few cannabis issues, actually, which will have impact on our businesses.
So to really break it down for, the person that, doesn't know politics, you got a bunch of people that were voted into office, state office, that are all meeting for 2 months out of the year to discuss a whole bunch of really important shit that affects everything from healthcare to education to
crime
to cannabis, to all kinds of things. And so, man, it seems like 2 months wouldn't be long enough to really go through, all the shit that needs to be gone through.
Yeah, it's a short period of time, and we're one of the legislatures that actually runs a little bit less than others. Texas goes for like 6 months, and there's others that go for a little bit longer too. But what they do is in the interim period, or the period between the session and like during the summer and whatnot, they actually meet in specific committees covering different topics. So you've got like a courts, corrections, and justice committee. You've got an appropriations and finance committee.
So they're meeting throughout the year to talk about the shit they're going to talk about for 2 months.
Exactly.
Out of the year.
Yeah. So they're kind of laying
so
the
at least they're
groundwork
planning.
Yeah.
Where do you fit in now with the legislative session? Where do you fit in, and how does your current business how is it affected by the session? And also, what are you doing to kind of, I know you've been in Santa Fe a lot. What are you doing to be active in the session right now?
Yeah. So we've got a couple of different businesses. High Maintenance is our micro farm and manufacturing and consulting down in Socorro. We've also got a group that we call the Plug, and we really help small cannabis businesses through coaching. And during this legislative session, we're up in Santa Fe talking to legislators and other people about the bills that will potentially impact the cannabis industry.
Nice.
It's all out of love and passion for the industry, and taking my experience and going up there. We don't get paid for anything that we do. It's all volunteer work right now. But I feel like I've got, this is my 24th legislative session now.
Wow.
And I want to take the unique experience that I have working in the political world and act as a bridge between the political and policy side and the cannabis world.
Well, so you actually had some sort of impact in the original regulations, the original cannabis regulations.
Yeah. So I've actually been working on cannabis policy since about 2006 when the first medical bill passed.
Nice.
So I've got a ton of policy experience in cannabis tucked under my belt. And then when this governor came to office, she formed a task force to study legalization. And I was a policy analyst and policy writer on that committee. And everything that we did eventually became the Cannabis Regulation Act that we're operating under now.
So maybe it's a little harsh in the past for me to have said that, it was totally Chads that were writing these fucking rules.
Not 100%.
Not 100%, but a handful
Pretty
of
close,
Chads in the room.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and you said off camera that you've enjoyed cannabis for many years through your professional career and so 100%. On. Obviously, at times you had to be more secretive about it than others. But so that's good. That's probably liberating to be able to work and do things where you don't have to hide that.
It's so nice
that you smoke the devil's lettuce.
Reefer madness, you know. Yeah, no, it's nice being able to shed a lot of the bullshit that comes with living and working in the political world. It's very freeing. So
well, and it sucks because there are a lot of real people, real cannabis consumers, real cool, interesting people in politics, but they have to put on such a mask.
It's a mask, yeah.
And they have to act such a certain way that you never know.
Yeah.
You never know. And a lot of times they're seen as, fake or whatever because they're, going along with the whole fucking political rigmarole.
I could go for hours talking about that stuff. It's crazy.
And we talked about that. And obviously at one point or another, you were turned off by politics and you went into cannabis businesses, but your passion and your experiences kind of led you right back into politics, just with cannabis now.
Yeah, it's an area where I think there's a gigantic gap, even nationwide. People who not just know cannabis policy, but can apply it to the real world, to our businesses. Sometimes it's a kind of a lonely place to be because there's not a lot of people to talk to about it. But We need folks that I think that can bridge that gap, and hopefully more of us will come out of the woodwork as the industry progresses.
Well, and I think it's very simple with cannabis. I think the disconnect is very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Cannabis comes from the traditional legacy market,
Yes.
the black market,
Right.
and you don't talk to the cops in the black market,
Right. Exactly.
and the cops are part of the law, which is part of regulation, which is part of this political thing. So I think, by nature, by birth, by prohibition, cannabis has kind of been pushed away from policy.
Yeah.
Been pushed away from
Totally
people have been pushed away from policy, and pushed away from regulation because they've had to operate in the shadows for so many years. But we're not operating in the shadows anymore.
Exactly.
And now these motherfuckers are making the rules.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
And a lot of those rules might not be good for the industry.
Yeah, they don't make sense.
And some might be. Some might be great for the industry. And, I know with any type of policy or any type of politics you're going to oppose or, support.
Yeah.
Each individual person, you ask 10 people, you're going to get a mix of answers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why we've got this division of Democrat, Republicans.
Yep.
That's why, we've got these two groups, or, what most people don't understand is much more than two groups. Those are the two groups that are highlighted.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a few more in there. And that's it.
Yeah.
And you just got to go with kind of what either other side, they're bunched.
Yeah.
They're group.
You're either this tribe or that tribe, and you either agree with that one or this one, and if you don't, you're the hell out of here. And it's man, it's old.
It's weird.
It's weird.
But in specifically talking about cannabis regulation, there's stuff that, we really need to expose to, I think, the common consumer. And that's why I wanted you to come on today.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the common consumer, cannabis consumer, stoner, pothead, medical patient, whatever, midnight toker, whatever you want to call them, closet smoker, the common cannabis user doesn't know what's happening in the political world.
Yep.
The common person doesn't know.
Yeah.
Even if they're not a user, even if they're against it, you know what I mean? They just kind of wait for the news to tell them, like, hey, this is what's fucking happening.
Yeah. And the news is only going to give you that
like
much.
it or lump it, boom.
Yeah, exactly.
So what a great time to talk to you.
Yeah.
We are currently in the middle of this session.
Yep.
And there's some really important things that they're talking about.
There is, indeed.
So, that's why I brought you here today. Let's tell the common consumer what's going on.
Yeah.
And how they can kind of get involved.
Yeah. Why don't we start with a little bit of a base about thinking about the old schoolhouse rock kind of stuff. Like, how does a bill become a law? I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. We've got a similar process here in New Mexico. We've got the House of Representatives and the state Senate, which make up the legislative branch of government. They get together every year, talk about issues. Those issues they introduce as what they call legislation or a bill. Those bills are then brought to their respective places, either the House or the Senate, and they're introduced into what are called committees. Committees are made up of those legislators that have expertise in certain areas, like judiciary has a bunch of attorneys. The labor committee has folks that are familiar with labor issues and voting issues and those types of things. So the legislation typically gets assigned to two committees, and a couple of things can happen in those committees. The bills can be amended, meaning that if they find some issue in there that they need to work on, they can correct it in committee.
Amended. So amended means changed.
Means changed.
The bill can be changed.
Yep, bill can be changed. It can be passed on to the next committee, which is called a due pass, or they can table a bill, which essentially means that the bill doesn't go anywhere for the rest of the session. They can also, in some opportunities, hold it over and have it just sit in that committee where they can work on different language and potentially bring it back for a hearing.
Kind of back burner it.
Yeah, exactly. Once it goes through the committee process, it goes to the full House or Senate for a full hearing by all of the legislators that make up that full body. They can do the same thing on the floor. They can amend it or change it. They can table it or they can pass it. If it passes out of one of the chambers, either the House or Senate, It crosses over and goes through the exact same process in the other places.
How long of a process is that?
It depends.
And on average?
Yeah, on average.
Let's say something that everybody likes and that's easy to get past. How long would that take?
For a 2-month session, about a month to go through the full process.
So some things can get completely passed.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll see quite a bit of legislation or quite a few bills that go through that process and end up on the governor's desk for either signature or veto, which means she doesn't like the bill and it goes away, or a pocket veto, which means it just sits there and she doesn't do anything with it. And eventually the bill just
so the governor has final say on every single thing that is discussed in the House, basically, that is pushed forward.
Yeah.
Every single bill that is pushed forward from the House.
That's right.
Interesting.
Right.
So the governor has a lot of power.
Governor's got a lot of power, a lot of power. And the governor in New Mexico can also take our state budget and do what's called line item vetoes, meaning if she doesn't like an item that's in there, she can take her veto pen and cross it out and that just goes away. So executive in New Mexico has a lot of power.
Interesting. Okay. So what can the average person do to kind of slow down or stop any of that process on a bill that they oppose?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that I would definitely say folks can do is tune into what we're doing on the plug. On Instagram, we're at the NM plug.
Okay.
I post 60-second updates every couple of weeks about what's actually happening in the legislature. And if they sign up on our email, I will send out a weekly tracking as to what's happening with all of the cannabis legislation and bills. So that's the first thing they can do. Second thing, definitely listen to podcasts like this. If you have time, go up to Santa Fe, talk to your legislators. They do want to hear from you if you're in the community. And if you're not sure how to do it, hit us up. I'll arrange a trip up there for people to go chat with their legislators.
So, and this goes back to what you were saying before. Our state representatives are accessible in New Mexico.
Very much so.
Good for us. So it seems really simple. So get informed, follow somebody like yourself who covers topics like cannabis regulation. And then once you're informed and once you feel a fucking certain way about it, just go talk to your representative.
Yeah.
Or email or, go
write
through
them a letter.
Go through the channels of communication.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance the representative will see it.
Absolutely. 100%. I worked.
Seems pretty easy.
It's pretty easy. I worked as staff for several members of the state house, and I had the opportunity to read all of their correspondence, and I knew that they were going to look at the same thing. So
how many people would you say actually participate in contacting their representative about things that are important?
Yeah, it depends on the issue.
Yeah,
there's some issues. I've been there when there've been some controversial things like ending cockfighting, for example. There were literally thousands of people that came out of the woodwork for that, writing
against
letters.
Or for ending cockfighting.
For and against. Cockfighting was a big industry in New Mexico.
Yeah. And there's cultural collection and yada, yada, yada. But then obviously there's animal cruelty issues and
absolutely. But for an average issue like the cannabis stuff, usually it's folks like myself or paid lobbyists coming out.
It's not many.
It's not many. Most
That's crazy because it's super important.
It is. It's super important. And so during these committee hearings, citizens have a chance to stand up and either voice their support or opposition for these bills. So what we do as industry is go in there and either support or oppose the legislation.
So you can actually have a voice in some of these sessions. So these committee meetings are during the sessions.
They're during the sessions.
So that's what you're doing in Santa Fe.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing up in Santa Fe is either voicing opposition or support. The really cool thing is they have full webcasting for the sessions now, and folks can actually get on and testify via Zoom in the hearings.
So you don't even have to fucking go.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's still barely any people.
Still barely. So people got to get involved.
Well, and I think the main reason why is because just like we talked about before, is people don't know how.
Yeah.
They really feel like they're disconnected. And the fucking government, I'm sure, does it on purpose.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But they don't want to look like they're accessible because, whoa, imagine if fucking 20,000 people showed up.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no. Or 200,000 people or whatever.
Yep.
Which, man, if you really gotten everybody's it's almost like we need a promoter or
Yeah.
somebody to kind of organize everybody to show up.
Yep.
But they probably lock you up for that. And
Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to do, is be that promoter. Honestly, like, there has to be that bridge in between all this. So whenever we can, and whatever bills are up in committee or being heard in committee, we try to post a link on our Instagram stories so people can go in there and get that access. I'm working on plans on how to keep people informed over the summer months too.
Yeah.
When we're all busy on our farms, but this stuff is still important. So,
and it's just, shame on me for being, a person that bitches about what's going on, but doesn't go and get involved necessarily. And like I said, just been turned off by politics, but since the beginning. But yeah, that's one of those, let me find out you're bitching about what's going on, but you're not doing anything to change it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's crazy because you'll see all kinds of shit passed without a peep. And then people bitch about it afterwards.
Yeah, for sure.
Intensely.
Right? We've got some important shit going on too.
Jess, good morning.
Hey. I think it's really important to note that a majority of the time, a lack of community involvement, citizen involvement in this process in general tends to benefit everybody involved except for citizens.
Oh, almost always.
Yeah.
And almost always the bigger players in the game too, not necessarily the small businesses that make up like 86% of all businesses in the state.
Yeah, right. People who can afford to send representatives who know lawyer lingo and things like that and can kind of be zealots for their cause.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and what's crazy, and like I said, we're not here to talk big politics, but I'll talk a little bit about it. It's kind of the same when it comes to federal politics.
Oh, yeah. It's much worse.
You have a bunch of people that are like, armchair Democrats, armchair Republicans, whatever the fuck. And they really have no clue, what's actually being voted on, what's actually being passed, what's actually being stolen.
Yep.
Thanks, shout out Elon Musk for, right. 4.7 trillion or something. Last time I heard a number, I'm sure it's going to keep going up.
Oh, guaranteed.
But all that being done behind the average citizen's back, and nobody even fucking knows what's going on. Everybody just fucking just lets it happen.
Yeah.
And boom, zoom from, federal level, do some research, listen to what's going on.
Exactly.
Get on X. But zooming from a federal level back to a state level.
Yeah.
They're accessible.
Yes.
The federal level, they might not be as accessible.
Not as.
They're big shots.
Yeah,
big
exactly.
time. They made it to the Hollywood side. Whatever.
Half of them don't even live in their states.
Yeah. But the small side, the New Mexico side, we have a chance to fuck shit up.
Absolutely.
We have a chance to go in there and say, whoa.
Absolutely.
No, this is not right. This doesn't add up. The math ain't mathing.
Exactly.
What are you fucking doing? And in a professional way, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But so that zooms us to what's happening right now that matters. Yeah. Because here's the other thing with politics is it's a big old pile of shit. Like Matt said, they're not just talking about cannabis.
Everything.
If you go and fucking, whatever, go to Santa Fe every day, you're going to see a very small percentage about cannabis. You know what I mean? It's about everything else in the state, which might be important to you. You know, so, obviously you can tune in.
Yep.
But what about cannabis is happening that really matters right now?
So there's a few things that I think we'll see roll through probably the entire process and actually get up to the governor. The first one I think is a very necessary change, and that's House Bill 112. And that is it's called Cannabis Licensure Changes. Really, what it does is it requires federal background checks and fingerprinting for cannabis licensees. It's something that we should have had from the start, but the state fucked it up in the language and had issues with the FBI.
So to quote Larry Barker, we won't have any more cartel-owned licenses.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Quote unquote. Larry Barker.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout out Larry Barker.
Shout out to Larry.
But okay, cool.
Yeah. So that's a positive change. That's something every cannabis business owner should know about.
That's the only thing? That's the whole bill?
Yeah, that's the whole bill.
Okay.
There's a little bit of cleanup language here and there where they're changing commas and stuff like that. But nothing that really
See,
matters.
once again, good old politics. They could have just called it the federal background check bill or something like that. Whatever.
Exactly. Now, there's another
so
one.
112.
Yeah.
112, keeping the crazy criminals out of the game.
Out. We have state background checks, but we need the federal. Another bill that kind of goes hand in glove with that is House Bill 10. It's called RLD Cannabis Enforcement. That's the one that creates the law enforcement bureau that just enforces cannabis. I'm a little mixed on this one because anytime we create a new law enforcement agency or authority, I think we need to really examine it with a microscope and make sure we're doing the right thing. But that in cannabis, as we've talked about before, hasn't typically meshed well with law enforcement. So there's that piece. But it promises to really come in and make a dent in some of these bigger illegal grow operations that we're seing, especially out in the Estancia area.
So I've nicknamed it the Robocop bill.
Yeah.
And say what you will or whatever. I hope you watched Robocop.
Oh yeah.
But I think it has good and bad points, and that's why I call it the Robocop bill.
Yeah.
Shit got if you follow Robocop, shit got so bad that they had to police forces had to go to another level of enforcement, and that brought out these super cops that were basically jury, judge, and executioner on the spot.
Yep.
Okay.
That's right.
But it was essential to clean up this horrible crime-ridden. What was it? Is Detroit?
Detroit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Future Detroit. So, now, if you're a cannabis business owner, it kind of seems like it's gotten a little wild.
Yep.
I hate to compare it to RoboCop Detroit, but it's gotten a little wild. How many greenhouses did they bust in Estancia?
Lord, it was a couple hundred that were on one of the farms. The second farm had another couple hundred.
Hundreds of Chinese-owned greenhouses.
Yes, 40,000 plus plants.
And I have heard from people that were cleaning up the site with shipping containers for human trafficked, in my opinion, human trafficked people that were living in 2x4 built fucking bunk beds in these shipping containers.
Yeah. I've seen it firsthand.
And that went on in New Mexico for too fucking long.
Yep.
And the reason that went on in New Mexico for too long, in my opinion, is nobody knew what to do. Everybody was pointing the fucking fingers at each other. And we're like, well, hey, you allowed cannabis. What do you want us to do?
Exactly.
Well, hey, we can't do anything. We don't have any enforcement. What do you want us to do? Well, hey, this is what you asked for. And we had these state agencies fucking sitting there fighting over who's going to bust these fucking criminals.
Yeah, exactly.
And this material, like it or lump it, made its way into the fucking market.
100%.
And however that happened, whatever. But it made its way into the market, and it's an incredible black eye on New Mexico, and it's even worse than a black eye. It's a scar on New Mexico about us not having our shit together and just allowing blatant. Don't even talk about the cannabis that was being grown. Whatever, free the plant, but. These were just criminals that had fucking basic 100%. Slave labor.
Yes.
And it was just going on in the middle of this poor fucking rural fucking town in New Mexico.
Yeah. And everything that, since they're criminals, everything that is put in place by regulators to protect the consumer, they're clearly ignoring because
100%.
They're breaking all the other fucking laws too. So why would they not break those?
And they've done this in other states. And I know in Oklahoma, for example, they found that 98% of those Chinese farms are funded by the Chinese Communist Party too. So they've got other connections.
My grandpa would be rolling in his fucking grave right now. The fucking commies have fucking infiltrated fucking state cannabis.
Yeah. Yep. It's true. So I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on out there that need to be looked at. And you're right. Everybody is just handed off saying, well, that's not really my problem. You do something. This could potentially focus.
So in fucking war-torn, criminal-filled Detroit, we get Robocop, and in fucking lawless, outlaw fuckingville, fucking New Mexico cannabis, we get House Bill 10.
Yes.
That creates a specific police force.
Yes.
That they're talking about. Now, this is where I was worried at first. Is this going to be current CCD members, or are they talking about hiring actual law enforcement?
The bill actually states that they will be certified law enforcement officers.
Okay.
So they'll actually be cops that have run through the state law enforcement academy. They've got the badge. They've got all the credentials.
And who knows? I mean, I guess I'm glad it's not just the CCD, because they got a lot on their plate. But a lot of cops don't like cannabis.
No, they don't.
And
they don't.
And so does that mean, are we going to get a unfair, stigmatized view from these enforcement officers when they come to our facilities?
Well, I think part of that depends on what we do as a community, as a cannabis community, because we can go to them and help educate them on what we do, why we do it, how we do it, and hopefully break down some of those. So
you're saying
stigmas.
First step, get them high.
Yeah, let's get them high first. Yeah, absolutely. I'm all for it. Everybody needs weed.
But realistically, dude, I've had a firefighter walk through my facility like this.
Oh, wow.
Thinking he was going to get fucking high from the smell of cannabis.
Yeah.
So there's some people that are it's so stigmatized. So
it is.
I'd hope they're not signing up for the enforcement, but maybe they are. Maybe they're like, we're going to put an end to this shit.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit like law enforcement's guards kind of coming down a little on cannabis. They've got their fucking hands full in New Mexico.
So I read some stuff in that bill that sounded like, search and seizure without warrant.
Yeah.
And I think that turned off the public right away, and they're like, what?
Yeah, I had that concern too.
Our rights as American citizens are now going to be overlooked and violated because we have a license?
Yeah. That's actually a very specific legal definition for search and seizure. And there's only specific conditions where they can actually come in without a warrant.
Yeah.
It's
and honestly, if the regulators are there,
Yeah.
you're supposed to let them into your building.
Yeah,
That's a whole
exactly.
nother charge you can get. So
yeah.
search and seizure really fucking is, if you're letting enforcement officers in, I'm pretty sure search and seizure goes out the window.
Pretty much, yeah. Plus, they basically already need to have probable cause to come in without a warrant. A lot of times they use that for like domestic violence situations, for example. So it's
so. What else in this bill
extreme.
is important other than obviously creating a force and them being able to do something about the corruption and rule breaking right now inside the industry?
The bill will also give CCD the authority to immediately impound or seize any of this illegal product.
Because they couldn't even take the material before. They just had to tell you don't do nothing.
Yeah, just they had to go on the trust system, and oh my god, forget that shit. So now under this bill, they'll have the authority to actually impound it. Allow all of the due process and everything to take place, but they'll be able to destroy it now too, which they had no idea what to do with it before. So it's actually not too terrible. So we'll see what happens.
I'm curious. I wanted to circle back to the search and seizures and the entering thing. Are cannabis businesses, do cannabis businesses or businesses in general, when it comes to these like special agencies, do we get due process of the Fourth Amendment?
Yes, there is always due process under the Fourth Amendment. That's our constitutionally guaranteed right. They build due process into all of these things. It's actually, the way I'm looking at it actually is very similar to SID. They actually go out and do the liquor inspections. It'll be probably a similar process to that.
So to call it the Robocop bill might be a little bit of a freak out.
No, you're not far off, though, considering all the shit that's been happening.
And what I worry about is the same thing that happened in Robocop, is the machines eventually kind of turned on the people.
Yep.
And so what happens when they bust all the bad guys?
Yeah.
And then you got this force that's funded and needs something to do. They're, in a sense, they'd be like a cop with a quota.
Yeah.
And so everybody loves a cop with a quota. And is that what it's going to turn into? And so we're going to have fucking Gestapo shakedowns. You know what I mean? Because they bust all the fucking Chinese grows.
Honestly, that's another area where the community comes in, and where I am trying to be kind of a bridge where we need to be having these conversations with CCD, whether it's about law enforcement, or some stupid rule proposal or something like that. I think we have to, as a community and business owners, be very vocal about how we feel about these things and try to help give them some guardrails.
But like I said, careful what you wish for. It's a double-edged sword.
It is,
absolutely. If you don't want the criminal activity element, you almost have to let in something like this to control it.
Yeah, it's a balancing act.
Because right now the current group can't do anything to control it.
Nothing. Not a damn thing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Moving right along. What's the next bill?
The next big one, I think one of the most important bills making its way through session this year for us is Senate Bill 89. It removes the incremental increase in the cannabis excise tax. Yeah, sets it at 12%. It was gradually going to go up to 20%.
Okay, so to break that down for the average consumer, this is the tax you pay on your products that you buy. Yep. So this is the tax at the register.
Tax at the register.
What is it currently?
Currently, it's at 12% plus whatever the gross receipts tax is at the register.
7-ish.
Depending on where you live or shop, it's roughly 7. Santa Fe is closer to 9.
So it's stacked. So it's 7 plus 15?
7
or 7 plus 12.
12.
So that's 19.
What they've found in other legal markets, what they've found in other legal markets is the closer you get to that kind of 20 to 21% tax rate, the more people go back to the traditional market and start buying the traditional.
So California, if any of you guys are watching what has happened to California, is California has now fucked the California operator 6 ways till fucking Sunday. And there is so much tax and so much fuckery in fees and whatnot that, the state is turning back to the traditional market.
Yep.
Which
100%.
Shame on California. And I'd really hope that our state would kind of see that happening and be tuned in and plugged in enough to see that that's a bad fucking idea.
This is where the process gets super frustrating. So they had the first hearing on this bill in the Senate Tax Committee, and everything was going great. And then one of the legislators that sits on the Senate Budget Committee said, we built our budget without this being included. And that means $4.5 million less for the state. And you could feel the collective eye roll even through Zoom, because it's like, were you not listening to any of the goddamn testimony? Like, this is a very important thing for the industry and for consumers. So now it's just kind of sitting in that committee. This is where.
So we bitched about it. We fought it.
Oh, we fought it. Now
now it's just doing what?
It's sitting in that committee now, and what these legislators are looking at doing is creating a giant tax package with all of these other tax bills and potentially putting that one in there when it really should be a standalone.
How much money has the state made off? And I hate to put you on the spot.
No, that's all right.
Roughly, how much money to date has the state made off cannabis?
I can say we are easily well over $1 billion.
I know we hit $1 billion a while back, so
we're looking at hundreds of millions coming to the coffers of the state.
So it's weird that the state's not like grateful and happy with that. It would seem like it's a successful program. It's making a ton of money for the state. Why have it incrementally go up? Because somebody's fucking bright idea way back was that's how we were going to do it.
Yeah.
It got written in, and now it's like, we're going with it, right?
Yeah. Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of how it is. And
how high can it go?
In the legislation, it went up to 20%. So unless we put that pause or just strip out that increase,
20 plus the 7 or whatever, and who knows what it'll be at that time.
Yes.
But so about a 30%. I wonder... Fucking Google it. I wonder what Cali's experiencing right now.
Good question.
At the shelf. Because it's crippling California on top of the fees and the regulation and the taxes they're being put through.
Yep.
And this is where, man. So not only do they tax the operator, the manufacturer, the grower, the manufacturer, the operator, the dispensary.
Yep.
To the fucking gills, but now we're going to continue to tax the consumer until they just don't want to fuck with us anymore.
Pretty much, and then it sends you right back to your plug, which is what we don't really want happening.
Well, and what will happen before that is the grower, the manufacturer, the retailer will all have to cut their fucking prices down
exactly.
to withstand the add of the tax until it just can't be done anymore and it's just too fucking low.
Yeah, it kills everything.
Yeah.
Kills businesses. It's insane. This is where we can get involved, though. We can make calls to the legislators that sit on that tax committee and say, we want this bill. Bring this bill back. This is important for the industry. The other thing people can do is go get your med cards. You don't get taxed at the register when you have your med card.
It's shocking to see how many people don't have their med cards right now.
Yeah.
And you know, I've been in the dispensary, you know, we do a lot of drop-offs. We work with a lot of stores and you kind of, you know, hear the chatter or whatever. And yeah, it's mostly rec patients or rec customers and a very small percentage of med patients.
Yep.
And you would think that, you know, I think most people are self-medicating in one way or another with cannabis use. So you'd think that they would get their med card.
Well, it's a trend that you see in other rec states that have had long time programs. Colorado naturally dropped off. I'd like to see more incentives for folks to get back on the med program.
Go get your med card, save a significant amount of money. 20% or 17% to, you know, or 19% to who the fuck knows how high it's going to go.
And there's some good businesses out there that offer exclusive deals to medical patients. And
yeah, there sure are. We got some good companies out there. So yeah, go get that med card.
Okay. So what's the next bill? Or is that pretty much it?
There's a few more out there, but the last one that I really want to talk about is House Bill 331. It's called Cannabis Business and Labor Peace Agreement.
Okay. Sounds harmless enough.
Sounds harmless enough. I will preface this by saying workers have the right to unionize, and I absolutely respect that right. And if you want to unionize, do it. What this bill does, though, is as licensees, as a condition of our license, it makes sure that we sign what's called a labor peace agreement. The labor peace agreement basically just says, you'll allow a labor union reasonable access to your business during business hours, and in exchange during the bargaining period on collective bargaining, they will not protest or restrict access to your business. So to me, that amounts to coercion, meaning they're telling you.
Is that a threat?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. On the streets, you know, you wouldn't put up with that kind of behavior.
So if I don't let you in the fucking door, you won't fucking picket my shop?
Yeah, that's exactly what they're saying. So, and
fucking
even
picket,
more,
nobody comes here.
Yeah, and even more, they actually, the organizers of this bill actually admitted in committee that they're using the cannabis industry as the guinea pig for this.
Oh.
And they want to force it on every business in the state. There are 8 other states with this in place. 3 of those have lawsuits. Oregon just filed theirs last week against this shit. New Mexico, I guarantee, will have a lawsuit if this passes. Because
10 or more employees.
10 or more employees.
That's mom and pop size.
That's mom and pop size. That's probably close to 80% of the operators in this state. So it's a play by the unions to force themselves in.
We're a good size and we're, I think, 15 people.
Yeah.
I think the biggest we've been is about 30.
Yeah.
But you know, we have a lot more going on in here at that time. But yeah, that's crazy.
It's
and
a
we
lot.
are a New Mexico mom and pop, you know?
Yeah, you guys are.
And interesting.
Yeah.
So what does the landscape look like for 10 employee plus small mom and pop cannabis businesses if this does go through?
Yeah, so you sign a labor peace agreement, and basically what happens, and again, labor unions can already come in and talk to your employees. That's a right guaranteed under the National Labor Relations Act and under the National Labor Relations Board.
So before, were we not allowed to unionize, or were cannabis employees not allowed to unionize?
You can. This is just another route to do it.
Yeah.
The advocates that are for this will call it another protection.
So the labor unions are obviously the ones pushing
this.
They
are 100% the ones pushing this, and this is yet another mandate that's pushed on a business for something that already exists and that they can already do.
A mom and pop plumbing shop doesn't have to be union, even though there's union plumbers.
Exactly.
And so that's interesting, and that's interesting that they've cut the employee at 10.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And because
And that was kind of an arbitrary number that they admitted to as well. It's
government
crazy.
and politics love to be fucking arbitrary.
They do. And they're self-serving.
And if you don't know what that means, it means you pulled it out of your ass.
Exactly.
The number is like, who the fuck came up with that number?
Yeah.
It's arbitrary.
They weren't looking at this regular small business definition, which is 50 employees.
Oh,
that's the federal.
So these
small
things
business
are already
definition.
defined.
Yeah. So
well, why wouldn't we change it
make up
for
your own
cannabis?
shit.
Why wouldn't we make it different for cannabis?
And they're doing it across the country in legal states. It's just like, it's
cool.
more of that bullshit.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the last bill?
That's the last one that I think we really need to talk about.
Really
the rest is just,
okay.
kind of, there's a county trying to put a pause on
what county?
Stuff.
Okay. I heard that. So there's a county trying to put a pause on the licensing. We got time. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk. So that is actually Senate Bill 152. It's county petition for cannabis license.
What county? Most important.
Torrance County.
Torrance County.
Torrance County
encompasses what?
It's so you've got Santa Fe County to the north, Bernalillo County to the west, then Torrance County is kind of right there.
So what cities are in
Moriarty and Estancia.
Yeah.
McIntosh. Like it's all this stuff
so
on the
other side.
So
it seems like places with not that many dispensaries.
Not that many dispensaries.
Cannabis businesses really in general.
But there's a ton of farms out there, and that's where the illegal farms have popped up.
So Estancia, where the China farm was.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
They've got a reason for it, but
they think it's fucking their water. They think it's fucking everything.
And in some cases, I agree. But it's also being driven largely by a very anti-cannabis attitude out there, which has existed since before legalization.
Well,
but
that's so sad because it seems like maybe if they didn't have an anti-cannabis attitude, they probably have it now.
Yeah,
after this fucking rinky-dink farm
went. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But what I would say, and part of the reason that we're opposed to this bill in particular is the county hasn't enacted their own ordinances locally to try to deal with this. They're concerned about the greenhouses and their night skies, enact a night sky ordinance. If you're concerned about the water, layer on some other water ordinances. We have cities and counties in the state that have put what's called density restrictions on, meaning you can only have a certain number of these businesses within a certain radius of each other. So there's things that the county can do first to take care of some of these issues that they see. But they haven't.
So you think it's been taken to the wrong level?
I do.
Okay.
Anytime you put something in state law, you better make damn sure that you want it there because it's almost impossible to get undone.
You hear that? So that's a good point. So that's why it's so important that people get involved in these different issues because once it's fucking done, it's done.
It's done.
And then it's like it or lump it.
Yeah.
This is the rule.
Yeah, exactly.
And that can be bad.
It can
especially be. So in conclusion, in wrap up, let's go back to the beginning and let's talk about, I don't even want necessarily your opinion.
Yeah.
I would like an opinion from a logical opinion for cannabis business owners, which you are.
Yeah.
So that shouldn't be, be weird. Or it's
Comes
probably not
naturally.
different. But yeah, what do you oppose or what do you think the industry should oppose or support of those bills from the top?
I think we should absolutely support the cannabis excise tax pause. We need that as an industry if we're going to survive.
Fuck more tax. I mean,
fuck more tax. I don't want taxes on anything. I'm that,
I think they owe us. I think there's like some math that can be done. 4.7 trillion divided. Something that can be done, and we need some fucking. We need some checks.
We haven't even talked about how the state can give us money back, but they're sitting on a pile that they.
Elon Musk hasn't even come to the state.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, could you imagine if that's what the federal level looks like? What does each individual state corruption level look like?
We've got a mechanism in state law. If you think about our budget like buckets, once the first bucket is filled, there's a second one underneath it that goes to things like infrastructure. Once that one's filled, it's supposed to go back to the taxpayers of the state. They don't even fucking do that. They go spend it on their pet projects so they can keep getting reelected.
Well, and not to veer off fucking course.
Yeah.
But this brings us back to how much money the state has made off of cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that money has been spent to make a better cannabis industry?
Honestly, it's whatever the Cannabis Control Division requests for their budget. So what happens with all this cannabis money is
where does it go?
In New Mexico, the legislature, with very rare exceptions, is allowed to do what's called earmarking of money, meaning they can specifically designate it to a program saying, we're going to tax you on this, and then that money has to go here. What has to happen, really, for the most part, is the money goes into what's called the general fund. So it's the state's big bank account. So the cannabis excise tax goes there, and all of the gross receipts taxes that you pay at the local or county level go there too. The state makes distributions on a monthly basis of the gross receipts and the excise tax to the county or the city that it came from. So you can actually look up most of these distributions and see how much money is going to
where are those where are those funds usually allocated? And I'm not saying every place is the same, but what's some things those funds are usually allocated for?
It could go to, once it goes back to the city or the county, it could go to anything like Parks and Rec, for maybe like a new community center.
That's good.
It could go to buying police equipment or funding a new library or really anything in your community that your elected officials want to put it towards.
Those are the positive things it goes to, but there's also probably some bullshit.
Oh, guaranteed.
That it goes.
Anytime government spends money, there's bullshit. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So back to that. Yeah. We don't need any more taxes.
No.
And we definitely don't need any more push towards the traditional market.
No.
We need a thriving white market in New Mexico.
Thriving and healthy. And one of the best ways to do that,
in my opinion,
absolutely, one of the best ways to do that is to make sure that your taxes are low to non-existent, and that your businesses have, if you're going to regulate, have friendlier regulations than what a lot of industries operate under.
Yeah, I got that. That leads me into, I got a couple questions written down here. The first one's pretty simple, and I think it's pretty relative to what we just said. It's is cannabis overregulated? And I guess for some context, is it overregulated to something similar like alcohol?
I would need to dig a little further into the alcohol regulations, but I feel like we are regulated much heavier than alcohol in some ways. Maybe not obviously at the register, but certainly with the production and manufacturing. I'm I lean more towards the anti-government side of things. So to me, the fewer regulations, the better. If we're going to have a legal market and we have to live under laws, then everything should be tested to make sure it's safe for the consumer. We don't want to be putting out product that's loaded with arsenic or pesticides or mold,
and there you go. There's the double-edged sword of like anarchy, like
exactly.
Burn it all down. But then like, where do we test our weed? And
playing devil's advocate here, right? Regulation is the answer to like the issues with the farms, the illegal farms.
Yep. Regulation is part of the answer. We've got a lot of regulations, but I think the other part of the answer is enforcement, because what we were lacking, what we're still lacking, unless this legislation passes, is the enforcement side of things. Law enforcement was saying we don't have the authority to go after these illegal farms. So, which I still don't really necessarily buy, because where there's a will, there's a way. But enforcement is the kind of the other arm of that.
Okay. So let's go to the next bill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the, where did it go? House Bill 10. That's the one that creates the law enforcement authority. That I say pay attention to it. You don't necessarily need to get active on that one. That's one to keep an eye on, though. You want to make sure that it's being implemented properly too. If it gets signed, you don't just want a rogue police force out there running around. So
and that's like, what do we do with these cops when there isn't a boogeyman to hunt?
And I think that's a good question, and I don't know that anybody's been there yet. Maybe they start doing things like working with the dispensaries and cracking down on like underage sales and that type of thing. So, keep them busy with that kind of stuff.
I know in like Colorado and like Denver, they just partnered up with local police forces to do like, they would catch dispensaries that were allowing like
Yep.
smurfing and stuff like that.
And look, New Mexico is a giant state with a lot of open space.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see similar issues in the illicit market that California does because we have so much open space.
Yeah.
People can just set up and be hidden out. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be any lack of illegal activity for a new cannabis police force to go after.
Yeah. I don't think so either. Okay. So unsure about that one. We'll see kind of where it goes. Okay.
Yeah. Then the main one that as a business owner, I'm definitely opposed to is House Bill 331. That's the cannabis labor peace agreements. You can already unionize. We don't need this. There will be lawsuits. It's just let us run our businesses how we need to run our businesses. If the union wants to come in and talk to your employees, they already have that right. So come do it. We don't need the coercion and the experiment.
Yeah, and we definitely don't need the government signing up with the unions. I thought they were supposed to be like kind of two separate things. So, them trying to come in and make it like an enforceable thing. Like, oh, geez.
Yeah, make it a condition of you getting your license. It's like
it's a little weird.
Crazy. Yeah, there's no, there's
I'm
literally no other industry in the state that does that.
Yeah, no,
so,
silly. Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay. So, all of that is really what folks should be paying attention to. I think that's what's probably going to end up on the governor's desk. Maybe with some surprises. I doubt it.
Okay.
But definitely would love to have people get active on these things.
I think it needs to happen. I think there's a lot of stuff moving forward with cannabis regulation that people need to get involved with.
Yeah.
I think
absolutely.
there's a lot of parts that just don't make sense.
Yeah. 100%.
Remediation.
Yeah.
Remediation's
That's
one
a big
of them.
one we've talked about. Yeah.
Remediation from environmental causes.
Yeah.
We have places that spray chemicals for either agriculture or for mosquito control or whatever. And it's really hurting the neighboring micros and small farms and big farms that, are getting this blow off and having basically contaminated
the drift
material.
Is real.
We have plenty of chemistry and science that can clean and remediate this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's sad, but it's not even being talked about at a state level yet.
That's right.
So no, I think there's a lot of issues that we need to talk about. I think the amount of, what happened to social equity.
Yeah.
It's
just sitting there.
Yeah. What happened to the social equity plans? Is that being enforced?
Right.
What happened to the way I originally read it was the out of state, kind of stuff that it would be limited. And it seems like it's wide open for anybody
it is
out of state to walk in and get licensed.
And that would help limit some of the licenses, I think. I think we need to look at our packaging or labeling too. And rather than having so much focus on potency, let's shift the conversation and label our top 3 terpenes instead. That's something that I'd really like to work on because that not only leads to a healthier market, but it leads to more educated consumers.
Well, and we've even in the past left off terpenes because we don't have no fucking room because of all the other bullshit that I got to put on there. And
yeah,
don't even get me started.
We're a mature enough market now where I think that's one area where we can start doing some work is cleaning up some of these regulations and saying this doesn't make sense to have on the actual package when we have QR codes and other technology now.
There's also, I want to actually bring up my own bill that I saw in there because I read your pre-notes.
Yeah.
The hemp product bill.
Yes.
Let's talk that.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
So that's going to be your DA, your quote unquote gas station THC.
The deltas.
Yeah.
The deltas that we've talked and bashed and I've gone both ways. I've sat here with chemists and said, okay, it's the same molecule, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then, it's probably cleaner than the average shit on the market because it's made in some GMP fucking Texas lab.
Yep.
But you know what I mean? On the same side, are these products hurting state legal cannabis?
I think there's an argument to be made for that, especially where there's maybe smaller communities where there's not a dispensary and they are selling this gas station shit. Yeah.
Well, there's no regulation with
No,
this stuff.
none.
That's the other argument is who the fuck knows what is in it. And that's been my argument since the beginning. And that's why me and Jess have bashed it in the past.
I don't care what an adult puts into their body. That's their choice.
Of course.
But if we're going to live under laws and rules, and if cannabis is going to be regulated out the ass like it is, we need these products to be regulated too, because we don't know if they're safe or not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, bottom line is there's no regulation on them. So let's make sure if they're going to be out there, let's make them safe.
And I love how you can't buy unpasteurized milk.
Seriously.
From the fucking farmer.
Yeah.
But yet you can buy some fucking acid chemistry at the gas station.
You have no idea what's in it.
And I think another thing there too is the direct competitors to the products that are heavily invested in and most likely overregulated at the state level. They're directly competing with this gas station stuff.
Yeah.
So it should be regulated fairly alongside.
100%.
Just as an economical thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they can ship 50 fucking states.
Yes.
So as a cannabis operator in New Mexico, licensed operator that's compliant and follows all the rules, it's a big, oh man, that's not fucking fair.
It's a big fuck you to the legal industry,
it's
really.
So, yes, I guess I would have to stand against those products and
it's working against the legislators too, because their whole mission is to get tax dollars into the general fund. Yeah. And this is all shit that's not being taxed under the cannabis laws.
At least not at the same level. Yeah.
Right. So what products? How is it being worded? Do you know a little bit more about it?
Yeah, the main things that it's going after are the synthetic and semi-synthetic cannabinoids.
What is that being listed as? I know what that means, but what is the state? I guess you can't call them the feds. What do you call the state? The legs?
The legislators.
The ledges?
The ledges.
The ledgers?
I don't have it listed out here. I can definitely look at the bill.
But are they calling out specific compounds?
Yeah, like Delta 8.
Delta 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
So they're calling synthetics. They're not exactly right on the term synthetic. But whatever. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
That's a chem church, and I'm not educated enough to really explain that. But so that's going to really come down to what cannabinoids they're calling out.
Yeah,
because or isomers, as Delta 8 is an isomer of Delta 9.
Yeah,
so that's important.
It is
because they, what about THCA? Have they caught on to THCA in that yet? No,
no, THCA is not in there, thankfully. So we're still all right there. But yeah, what was interesting about this in the first committee that it was heard in is the people who came out and opposed it and those who came out and supported it. The support was largely from industry, and opposition was actually industry advocates, believe it or not.
Interesting.
So yeah, I think they were looking at it from like a small business perspective or something. So,
I can see both sides of it. I can really see both sides of it.
For sure.
At the end of the day, I'm not gonna deny the fact that I think less is better.
Yeah.
And I think the plant should be freed.
Yep.
I think it should be descheduled.
Yep.
And I think that every cannabinoid, synthetic, organic, whatever, should be allowed.
I agree.
Because I don't think the government has the right to tell you what you can put in your body.
Agreed.
And like you said, if everything's allowed, then we have regulation and testing across the board.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, fuck.
Yeah, fuck is right.
I mean, you think about it, fentanyl ruined cocaine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Could you imagine if you know what I mean? People that enjoyed cocaine could go, get some lab tested cocaine and feel happy about that and be safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think the government should tell you what you can or can't put in your body.
I agree.
100%. And granted, maybe I'm wrong in that. Maybe that's an unfavorable opinion, but it's my opinion at the end of the day.
Yeah,
you know what I
well,
mean? And I don't think the government should tell me a lot of fucking
I
things.
agree with you.
You
Yeah.
know?
Just leave me alone. I just want to be left alone.
Yeah,
That's-
we're supposed to call it libertarian.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, yeah. I feel more on the end cap end of things. So
Okay, so a bill, whatever it says, look into it, Google it, look it up.
Yeah.
But there's a bill going after some synthetic cannabinoids.
Yep.
Known, we've called it in the past the deltas or the gas station cannabinoids.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, these cannabinoids that are under the hemp bill that are outside of regulation, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, and to kind of wrap up the whole thing,
Mhm.
what do you think will pass? What do you think will go all the way? Do you think anything in there, just prediction?
Yeah.
Super Bowl prediction.
Yeah.
what do you think will pass out of all that shit?
I think the background checks bill will pass, the one that requires the FBI background checks. We actually really need that.
Yeah.
And
Seems positive enough.
Yeah. And I also think the law enforcement bill, creating the cannabis control law enforcement, the Robocop bill. I think we're going to see the Robocop bill pass as well out of all of this stuff.
Okay.
And I really, really, really want the tax bill to pass, but where it's sitting right now and with the attitude of some of the legislators on that committee, I'm not sure that it's going to roll out. But that one I think is the most important industry bill this session.
And which one was that?
That's the tax bill, the
tax bill.
cannabis excise.
Yeah,
tax.
because we need to stop that.
Yeah, we do.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, and back, I know you said it before. How can people find you? How can people get a hold of you? Either to for your services, or to just get information and figure out how to get involved.
There's a couple of ways. So the first is on Instagram at the NM Plug. That's where we do the advocacy and put out as much information about as many cannabis business topics as possible at the NM Plug. You can also go to our website from our page there to sign up for email updates. The other thing is High Maintenance. That's at High Maintenance NM on Instagram, at High Maintenance NM. My partner in love, life, and business, Veronica, runs that Instagram page for us.
Everybody already knows her, though.
Everybody knows her. So, but that's where we do our consulting side of things. So if you need consulting, anything, just reach out there. We've also got our Pharm and our wholesale business that Veronica runs as well.
So, Veronica's told everybody and showed everybody. Well, why don't you talk about what you actually brought here today?
Yeah,
this is from the farm.
It is from the farm.
Is this your inaugural greenhouse run?
This is our inaugural greenhouse run. So
okay.
The first thing we have is Terp Daddy. We did a collab with Impact Farms for some awesome little pre-rolls. They're so strong. We put them in a smaller package because they get you nice and high.
These are almost like
really
Capris. This reminds me of Capris. Do you remember? That might age me, but if you remember Capris, it was like the old Italian ladies would smoke them, and they were these little tiny cigarettes. But yeah, no, they hit well.
Oh, they hit so good. I feel like my little Italian granny when I'm smoking them. So. Yeah, no, it's perfect. It's perfect. So
nice. And then I dabbed some of that. I snuck it out while you were talking. I was like, swoosh.
This is our gushy. This is pressed by our girl Miss Pack over at Zia Terp Hunters. Shout out to them. She also blows glass. That's where my pendant is from.
Nice.
But this is our gushy rosin. We're actually gonna make hash holes with this, so keep an eye out for our hash holes coming soon as well.
Yeah, this stuff looks good. It's wet.
Yeah.
It tastes good. It burns good. It's got a good color. So good job.
Yeah, delicious.
And good job, Miss Pack.
Yeah.
On making that happen.
Hell yeah. It's good stuff, man.
Hell yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
And I'm super glad you guys had a success there with that run.
Yeah. It was good.
I'm really glad that you came on today because I think community involvement is important.
Yeah.
And I think there's that huge connection that we talked about. Disconnection that we talked about in the beginning, and we need to change that.
Yeah, for sure.
People need to get involved. Contact Matt.
Yep.
Contact your state legislators.
Yep.
And figure out a way to be heard.
Exactly.
Because a lot of shit happens behind your back that might piss you off.
A lot of it will piss you off. I guarantee you. The lack of education will piss you off. That's the one other thing real quick.
Of course.
I'm putting together a plan to start educating policymakers, legislators, city councilors, people who regulate us. And
important.
What I want to do is take them through our farms and our manufacturing spaces and show them what we do, how we do it, and why we do it, so they understand why.
Well, they can better regulate, and they can make rules, laws, etc., based around real operators and real needs from the community and the industry.
Yep, and in doing things that actually make sense for us. So.
Love to be part of that.
If you're, and I really appreciate that. And if you're wherever you are in the state, I want to do this regionally. So if you'd be interested in taking part of that, please reach out, and we'd be happy to talk with you a little bit.
Fucking love it.
And all those websites and all those links and social links will be in the description below.
Awesome.
They always are. Thanks to Jess. He keeps us plugged in and keeps everybody plugged in.
We got to do this again regularly because
Yeah.
laws are always ever changing.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe we can
awesome.
come up with a series name or something. But no, thank you
For
so
sure.
much, Matt. I think
You
you're extremely educated in politics, experienced educator, however you want to say it. And I think it's cool when people step up and do something about it and
I
represent
appreciate that.
the marginalized groups like the cannabis consumers.
No, it's all for the love, and we all need a voice. So if I can help provide that, then I'm going to be there doing it.
Well, good on you, sir. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And I love how we both wore jerseys
I
today.
know,
We didn't
good.
talk to each other, but I love the kind of square off versus two big guys in fucking jerseys.
Love it.
Thank you so much for coming
bet.
on.
Thanks,
and
man.
we'll definitely, like Jess said, I think this is something we should do.
Yeah, I'm down.
You know, possibly every time we have times where we can intervene and speak and kind of see what's going on in the house.
I think there'll be plenty to talk about for a long time. So
awesome.
yeah,
Right on.
you got it, man.
Thank you.
Thanks.